Well, Sooner Nation, Thunder Nation, we are back. This is the Just Okay Sports Podcast. Oh my Lord, I can't even get the intro going right. Man, that's rough. That means Just Oklahoma Sports Podcast. Although, as you can tell by the intro, it's just okay as well. I'm one of your villageated Sterile. I'm here with my brother Jared. Jared, how are you, sir?
I'm just concerned for you now. Are you good? You having a
I just had a
stroke?
I just
Do you smell
mild stroke,
toast?
mild
Well, do
mild
you smell
stroke.
toast?
Everything's fine.
Okay. Um, no, man, I'm good. The attitude here in Orlando is a little somber because UCF blew
Yeah.
like, what was it, 28-point lead or something? Like
Okay.
they,
Can I just tell you the truth? I saw that score was like whatever it was at one point, 35-10 or something late in the second half. Never turned the game back on. Troy and I are talking today. He's like, who else has got a chance at winning the Big 12? And I was like, well, I mean, UCF is like pretty good, man. And he's like, dude, they lost. And I was like, no, they didn't. And he goes, yes, they did. I go back through and I look at it. I was like, oh my Lord, they lost that game.
dude, okay, so I have a friend that's a UCF fan. This is like funny. I guess this is not really my Florida man story. I don't really have a Florida man story actually. But
Yeah.
anyway, he's a big UCF fan. He was at the game, but he had to leave to go to something. I don't remember what. So he like left at like halftime. And
Mm.
I texted him and I was like, yo, dude, like, like you are you good? Like, how you feeling? And he was like, yeah, bro, I'm like on cloud nine. I was like, when was the last time you checked the score? And he was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, the UCF
Oh.
score. And he's like, dude, we were up like 20. He didn't had no idea. And he was like, dude, he
Oh.
sent me like a 10-page cussing of like, we need to fire everybody and reset the program sort of thing. So, um, but yeah, man, it was a wild week, well, really a wild day of college football, actually. So,
Yeah. This
um,
season has been a fun season. Can we say that
it's
thus far? Like it really has.
it's what's crazy, and I like the Pac-12 has actually looked like the best conference. Can I say that? It looks like the best
Yes.
conference. Like
Yes.
the last year of its existence, it's been as
I
relevant as it
know.
has been in 20 years. Um, which is just wild. It's kind of hilarious. But I do like, I also like watching some of the games now though. Like watching some, now that some of them are playing each other, like honestly, this is my well, I don't know if it's a hot take, but this is my take. Oregon is probably the only school that I look at in the Pac-12 and be like, they could go to the Big Ten and make noise.
Yeah, well, Utah. I mean, I know Utah's not going to the Big Ten, they're going to the Big 12. But I
Yeah,
think if they had Cam Rising right now, they would be in a
I was gonna say, yeah,
much better position.
Utah would put in that category. Yeah, yeah. I meant like they could go to another conference, another Power
Yeah.
Five conference, and make noise.
Yeah.
Washington, and USC and Colorado have like, well, Washington and USC have really good offenses, um, but
Yeah.
they don't play defense very well. Um, I
Oregon's
don't
more defense than they are offense.
right.
But they're better offensively this year than they were last year. But
Yeah.
um,
So it's one of those things I've really, I don't know. It's been a fun. It's just like everybody, like Clemson's down. Florida State's up. Like it's like, dude, what is happening this year in college football? It's like it just like randomized who's going to be good.
yeah, it's been a fun year. It feels like every Saturday there's a game to as you're scrolling through that hits the screen and you're like, oh, this is a game, and it's fun to watch. And like honestly, like if you obviously if you said you have to put $100 on one team to win it all, I'm still going Georgia. But they're not. It's not like last year. Last year was like they need 6 injuries. Like they need 6 season-ending injuries to even make this like competitive, right? And then it was like, and if it's not them, Bama's gonna somehow, some way, like sneak up on them, and then it'll be Bama, right? Like
But they
those are
still,
the only two teams.
but they also still have, was it Brock Bowers? Is that his name? The tight end?
Yes. Oh
Which
my
I
gosh.
did see that things. Big Game Boomer put up his list of like the top tight end performances, the top 50 tight end performances of the week, and it was just all Brock Bowers, all 50 of them. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
he's insane, man.
so yeah, Georgia's like that team that feels. if they had a bad defensive performance against somebody better than Auburn, they could
Yeah.
easily lose. Like they look vulnerable
Yeah.
more than they did. Like you
Yes.
said, last year it was like, yeah. I mean, Bama was about the closest team with enough talent to beat them, and even they had to be top of their game.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I mean, what we're seeing, right, is the value of quarterback because all those teams in the Pac-12 have great quarterbacks and seasoned quarterbacks, right? Like even Utah. Utah is hanging on by defense, but if they had Cam Rising, they'd be in the conversation right now. It's just that they're missing the quarterback. And now all those SEC schools that have been running it forever don't have, they're either playing a first year quarterback or they just don't have one. And like as good as defense is, it can't make up for not having any quarterback play. You have to have
well,
both, right? So
yeah, and even like Utah with the way the Pac-12 looks, like I started thinking about it. If Cam Rising comes back and Utah is able to run the table, like they're still in it. As good as the
oh
Pac-12
yeah.
looks, unless like the
Yeah.
Pac-12 somehow implodes on itself, they'd still
Yep.
be in it. So,
No
but yeah,
doubt.
it's an interesting year. So,
It is. Well, let's get into it's our review podcast. So tonight we're going to break down the ISU game a little bit, kind of, sort of. We're going to do that a little bit differently. We're going to talk some general college football. We've even got a my other brother Daryl for you tonight. Do some picks, and then we'll deal with looking ahead to Texas, right? A little bit. So, Jared, I had an idea.
mhm.
Instead of kind of going but group by group, kind of just big picture wise, we're going to play good cop, bad cop. Because I feel
Okay.
like you and I do this a lot when we're like actually not on the pod, right? We have these conversations before we start, and then we try to like clean it all up. So I just said, screw it. Like, let's do what we do, which is you tend to be a little more glass half full. I tend to be a little more glass half empty. So let's just play our parts and let's do our thing. And so we'll start with you, sir. What was the good cop of Saturday versus Iowa State?
Adjustments on defense. Um, so I think that you have to look at, like, for one, you have to look at let's look at the last 5 years or 10. I mean, go farther back for OU, but the last we'll say the last 5 years of OU Iowa State and their games, and it's like it just OU in general on defense. It's like they didn't adjust, and Iowa State would find it was like that thing where it was like, um, we would shut down Iowa State for like a quarter or two, and then Iowa State would adjust offensively, and we would do nothing defensively, and then they would just start exploiting the zone or whatever it was we were doing, and then start really running. It's just like the Big 12 game, championship game. It was like the same thing, or yeah, it was Big 12 championship. We went up big, and then they just crawled back into it because defensively we just kept doing the same exact thing. So the
So you
fact
mean
that we
kind of
were,
like Colorado and USC? Okay, sorry, we'll talk
yeah,
about that later. Yeah, go
yeah,
right ahead. Uh-huh.
yeah. But the fact that we were able to see some adjustments, yes, we didn't have a good, I'd say like a quarter, probably like I'll call it a quarter and a half. It was really more of a little over a quarter of defensive play that was pretty bad. Which it really was like not even that bad. Like when you looked at it, it was just the
Yeah.
safeties. I don't understand. I went back and I rewatched the play like 4 or 5 times, and it's like I don't understand why that there wasn't receivers getting murdered. I don't know what the play. I don't like. It doesn't even look like he's trying to play the ball.
Well,
Um,
I'd say one of two things. I'd say one of two things. I agree with you. Like the good was even those big plays you gave up, it's not like nobody was in the vicinity. Matter of fact, on both, I think we all thought either the receiver's getting tackled or it's an interception, right?
yeah,
Which honestly, if you remember, we saw this with Billy Bowman in the SMU game. Remember that? Billy Bowman looked like he had a pick and then just sat in his spot and just let the receiver come across and snag the ball. So here's my thought, and I don't know this for sure, but with them playing so much zone coverage, I think that the first one, Key Lawrence just had his eyes set on the quarterback, saw him throw the ball up, and didn't see a receiver in the vicinity because he was running one of those over routes, from all the way on the backside. And he thought, dude, I gotta pick. Like, and he just tried to lowball it. He didn't high point it. And then next thing he knew, here came a guy across the other way and snatched the ball and off to the races he went. And it was like, what just happened? Like, how do you not? But I really think he did not see that one. Now, the second one where they collided into each other, I think was that one. Was that one Key and
I think it was
Gentry?
Key
I
and
know it was Gentry.
yeah, I think it was Key, or was it Bowen?
I cannot remember. But
Yeah,
either
I can't
way,
remember. Yeah.
I don't know what happened on that one at all. I have zero clue what happened. But on the first one, it literally appeared to me like he thought there was no receiver in the area and he just had a pick. And then
Right.
the other one was like he just lost sight of everything. Like he was there and it was just like it's like he was seeing double and picked the wrong one to go after.
Yeah. Yeah, it was that, but again, like outside of those two plays, it was a pretty stable game. It was I felt like they played really well. So I mean, that's my good cop is like, yeah, you had a bad quarter of football, and that's concerning because, um, Iowa State's not that talented or whatever, but it's like they were able to adjust and shut them down. They had like I don't even remember what the stat was, but like after like the first quarter or something, it was like they only gave up like 100 and something yards.
93 yards.
Yeah. So yeah,
It was
something
like
against
the
wow.
like something like 6 minutes into the second quarter on, they only gave up 93 yards.
Yeah. So that's like probably my good cop. What's your bad cop? I guess you're bad. Are you bad copying what I'm saying? Is that how this is working?
Well, no, I've just got completely different things that I'm just going to be negative Nancy about. I've got three things in the game
Okay.
that I'm
Do you
just
mean do all my good cops then?
yes, all your good cops. Yes,
Okay.
all your good cops.
Okay. So the other thing is the receivers again. You had what I think it was 10 or 11 receivers who caught balls on Saturday. Which of course some of that is up to like the end of the game. You were subbing in a lot of guys that um weren't that aren't normal starters or whatever, get a lot of playing time. But still, the fact you had a lot of guys that were, Jaden Gibson flashed again. Nick
Yep.
Anderson flashed again. Farouk even had two or three. I mean, he had some plays that he should have. Like I would even say, like the stat sheet doesn't show how good of a game he had at times. And then obviously Anthony is just he's already pretty much a known
Oh yeah.
product. So again, you had some guys that did that. The um the defense, I like I said, not only the adjustment, I thought that once the linebackers, I thought this is like a little bit of bad cop. I give a flash of bad cop. I would say actually in the first quarter, the linebackers and safeties both had bad games. Like the linebackers were like Hannick and Stutzman were out of position a lot more than we've seen all year. Um, but again, they were able to correct that, and I think from that point on, had really, really good games. Um, and then we finally got to see the defensive line, really push some people around, and they were actually getting some pressure. They got held a lot, but I don't really feel this was a badly called game, honestly, though. I mean, there's a few
No.
questionable calls, but it was both sides, it was both ways. So I don't really,
Yeah.
this wasn't as egregious as Cincinnati, where you were like, bro.
No.
Um,
No.
so but yeah, I mean, that I think that's my good cop. I mean, like I think all sides were good. Well, special teams. I don't really want to talk about special teams, but um, offensively and defensively, they looked really, really solid. I like we said, it's still ISU is on an opponent that's going to be able to be a great measuring stick for stiffer competition, but they went out and did what they were supposed to do. So I think they gave up a little bit more points than we would have hoped for, but at the same time, they still covered. And really looked dominant, like I said, for 3/4 of the game. So
Yeah, I'd agree. And I'll give a flash of good cop for a moment in that when you break down the tape and even listening to some of their pods as well, I would say that Iowa State's been 99% zone blocking all year, and they brought in a ton of counter pull, guard and tackle pulling kind of stuff. They switched up those schemes a ton, and so I don't know that Kanik especially was prepared for that. I did not. I think that's one reason he was very slow in the beginning. I don't know what was off with the safeties, but I think that that's why he was slow in the beginning. All right, here's my bad cop. All right, so here's what I've heard since the game was over. This team's incredible. The defense is amazing. Our offense is unstoppable. Can you believe that we just put 50 on Iowa State? No one puts 50 on Iowa State. It just doesn't
I
happen. Like,
I feel like you're referencing somebody specific right now, and it's just cracking me up a little bit. But go ahead.
no, 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 I'm really not. This has been from several different people, right? Look, stop trying to build Iowa State up as some defensive juggernaut. They're not. They have played Northern Iowa, Ohio, and Oklahoma State, for crying out loud. Like, what of those teams? If let's just say it this way, if Texas right now was on Twitter going nuts about putting a 50 piece on Iowa State, we would be saying, shut up. Of course you should. They suck. That's what we would be saying. They barely beat, right, Northern Iowa. They lost to Ohio, and they beat Oklahoma State. We would be raking Texas fans across the coals, right, if this was the case. And then they lost to Iowa as well, who, by the way, is not a good offensive team. They literally have an offensive coordinator that just has to get in the 20s to save his job, right? Like, so let's just stop. They lost 10 players because they don't know how to gamble without letting themselves being known as gambling, right? Like, they don't know how to follow those rules. They don't know how to not be recorded. I mean,
I made the joke in the Discord that I was like, well, yeah, they used to keep the games close because they were trying not to cover. Like, they were trying to make sure that the team didn't cover.
I mean, so look, man, like, the two best teams you have played thus far are SMU and Cincinnati. And those two teams they're okay. They're okay. That's what they are, right? The rest have not been any good. So just stop it with that, okay? This all makes everything look a lot better. Now, I will say this, like I said earlier, the safeties had a bad quarter. The linebackers had a really bad quarter. They did bounce back. They did adjust, right? So good on them. And look, when you can play poorly for an entire quarter and still win a game, that's a good thing. But let's not try to pretend like we just played a juggernaut of a game because we put 50 and we held Iowa State with their backup quarterback to 20 points. Like, let's just not go there at all. Let's not. And a team, by the way, who couldn't even average 3 yards a carry with that schedule that we just mentioned. Okay, like, this is not a good team. Number 2. If we are going to continue to go to Twitter and we're going to continue to end Discords and even water cooler chat, make fun of Lincoln Riley talking about, we're really close. We're real close. Then I don't want to hear any more discussion about we're going to find the run game, because we're not. We are not, with this starting 5, going to find a run game. And you really are not going to find a run game against Texas. Like, I'm sorry. Like, this team is not close. This is who they are. We are 5 games into the season, and you can't average barely 4 yards a carry on the season. That's who you are. Like, the run game is bad. It is really bad. Yep.
But go ahead. Go keep it. No, so go ahead. Go ahead. I want you to finish. I need you to get your bad cop out.
I will say this. If you're telling me that 5 games in, this is your best 5, and you have no one else that you feel comfortable to try on the interior of that offensive line, you want me to go doom? Here comes real dark Daryl right here. 6-7 is coming your first season in the SEC. If you don't have anyone behind those guys that you feel like you can give reps to, when literally 60% of your run plays, your guard, your center, and a guard, 2 of those 3, are in the backfield every single time, you got nobody that can get any more push than that. It ain't going to go well in the SEC, folks. It is not. Because while they don't have quarterbacks in the SEC right now, they still got defensive players. And they still have bigger, faster, and stronger defensive linemen. It's going to be a nightmare with a first-year starting quarterback in the SEC if this is really your best starting 5.
Yeah, I mean, a part of me doesn't disagree with you. I would even here. I'll give you a little. I'll give you a little bit of darkness, and something that I just don't understand. I want to get your thought on real quick is the rotation at everywhere on offense, even on some on defense. I don't understand. Right, like the running backs, they finally played Sawchuck. And I think
Yeah.
Didn't Barnes get a couple of carries if I remember right?
No, Barnes didn't touch the ball.
Okay. So Sawchuck played, but it's like, it's like I don't really understand the the thought process on how we're playing them, because it's like, with running backs all the time, you have to kind of I understand you have to sometimes let them get their legs going, right? Or like
Right.
get that momentum or whatever. And it's like you'd put Sawchuck in and he'd run like twice and then he'd pull him and then Major would run 8 times. You know what I mean? It's like, well, Major's not really doing a whole lot either. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't, I'm not gonna I'm not trying to be a hater on Major. I
Yes,
like
you are.
Marcus Major and I like that he's stuck around as long as he has, but it's like when I watch him play, I'm like, he's not giving you anything extraordinary. Like
But
I
he
would say,
was literally 60% better than Sawchuck.
no, but again, I'm just using Sawchuck as an example, but Towie, like, why is Towie, like, I don't understand how Towie's not getting more time because he's looked the best in game. I guess the practice thing, I don't know what all that means. But Towie's, like, to me, has looked like the best running back we have this year.
Yeah. Here's my thought on that. Barnes not getting a touch tells me he's injured or he's really done something to get in the doghouse. It's one of those two, but I'm guessing it's injury, right? With Towie, here's my real thought. I think the thought process is that next week Towie, if they were to run the ball 30 times next week, I think Towie gets 25 of them. And I think
Just
they
trying to keep
knew
him
they
like,
could be, yes, just trying to keep him fresh. That's why they gave him some run at the end of the game. And that's it. Just enough to keep his legs underneath him and go. That's my own conspiracy theory. Okay. Now, as far as the rotation, I said this the other day in the Discord. It is clear to me why the rotation is what it is, and nobody else wants to admit it because everybody's back on this train of, hey, just give Bill Bedenbow 5 weeks, and this line's going to become a Joe Moore Award crew for the rest of the year, and that's not
pretty sure
going
I've
to
never said
happen.
that, but
Okay, I know you haven't, okay, but other people are still like, look, this is not the same. This is not the same. The Joe Moore teams, you would see them miscommunicate on who to block, right? You would see them miss a blitzer. You did not see those lines get knocked off the ball at the snap into the backfield. That's what we've seen for 5. That has nothing to do with communication. That has nothing to do with timing. That is just straight up, you don't have the ability to knock someone off the ball, right? So, all that to say, hold on, here's back to my rotation. Arkansas State, Barnes, even Sawchuck got a little bit, right? And then a little bit of everybody else. When you played SMU, it was Towie and Major. Barnes and Sawchuck did not touch the ball, right?
mm-hmm.
Then you go and play, I don't even remember why am I, a Tulsa. Sawchuck, Barnes, and Major. You didn't even see Towie out there, right? Then you play Cincinnati, it's Towie and it's Major. Barnes and Sawchuck don't touch the ball. Do you see the pattern here? When you play teams that suck, you put in the guys that are a little bit smaller and that have a chance to bust one, but are not going to be able to run through trash in the backfield. When you play the teams that have more talent, you're putting your biggest, strongest guys that can get through the initial tackle so that you're guaranteed 2 to 3 yards. That's what their hope is because they know this line can't block.
Well, but I mean, it's like, it's the same thing. But what I'm saying is, like, it still feels like we've seen that throughout the year, like even on defense, though. Like we talked about that, like how Kobe hasn't got a little bit more run, right? Like, when you're in those like weird situations where it's like he's still like the game still matters. It's not just trash time, but you could put him in and give him a little bit of run, and he plays like 2 snaps and then you pull him, right? Things like some of the things like that. I'm just saying, like, overall, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but
yeah. Well,
yeah.
I think that that's the deal with the running backs. I think that they are playing their what they consider more of their bruiser downhill guys, and that's what you're going to see next week. I bet you don't see. I would not anticipate Sawchuck or Barnes gets more than 5 touches at all because they're not going to have space to run. And those guys, while Barnes can be a hammer, if he gets hit in the backfield by a defensive lineman, he's getting dropped at the line of scrimmage. Major, just by sheer size, When he gets grabbed onto by a D lineman, he loses momentum, but he has enough power to go through. Now, where Major has a problem, and I agree with you on this, if they get a hold of any kind of shoelace on him, he's down. He cannot keep his feet once they get any kind of hit on his legs at all. And when he does get through all that trash, he just can't keep his feet from there. Towee can. He just doesn't have the speed that Major does. So he's not going to break. That long run he had was crazy. Like, that's just, you're not going to see that a lot from him. Now, I would also say this. If you're telling me that we are giving 65% of the snaps, I will agree with you in this way. Even at wide receiver, we are not giving our best wide receivers 60% of the snaps. Andrell Anthony's one of them. Drake is very clutch. And then Nick and Jaden Gibson, I would say, are the next two best wide receivers we have. And they're seeing 30%, sometimes 5% of the snaps. Like, how do you not put Nick and Jaden Gibson on the field more? Like, I don't understand that. So for whatever reason, I don't know why, but we're not choosing to play our best. And on offensive line, we don't even know who that is, because what we just know is that at least 2 of those 5 are not any good. They're just not good. And we are not trying to play anybody else at those positions.
So I don't disagree with you on that, actually. And I even would say, like, even with, to go back to the offensive line, just to touch on that, like, I thought Rouse, outside of the problem with Rouse, I think physically, I think he's better than some of the other people we have, but he just had a lot of mental errors. He got away with, I think, 2 that I remember recalling, where he had 2 ineligible man downfield.
And I would say that was his worst game of the year. No doubt. Worst game of the year for him. And I don't know why that was, but like, when you watch the tape, it's not the same. And Guyton didn't have a great game. Although I will say probably 20 to 30% of the snaps that initially I would go, Guyton, what are you doing? You go back and watch, and there's a chance. I don't want to blame, because I don't know for sure what their calls are and how that works. But there's about 20 to 30% of the plays that you think that Guyton is the one at fault, that you go, you know what? That could have been McCade. It could have been that Matauer was supposed to come and release his guy to Rame and then go here, right? But I don't know that for sure. So it could really be that Guyton had a horrendous game as well, and that McCade had a better game. I don't know. But even so, McCade's just getting knocked backwards. Even on a double team, he's getting knocked backwards.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, I'm going to be honest, and I've been critical all season. And again, I hate to be that way, but Matauer and Rame got abused. They get abused more than anybody else on that offensive line. Those 2.
Yes.
I honestly, like, here's maybe my hot take. If I'm had to pick one to replace, it might be Rame. The reason being is that I think, like, the thing is with Matauer, he plays hard every down. Like, you can tell that he's playing hard.
Yes.
But he's just not physically there. Rame on some plays, it looks like he just does not care. Even when he's in the play, there's times where it just looks like he just gives up. Like, he's just like, I'm tired. I don't want to do this. And like I said, those 2 more than any others. Like, there was plenty of running plays. As a matter of fact, I would, like, again, watching this game, there's plays where the 3 other linemen push their guys off the ball, and those 2 are literally, there was one play where both of them, I wish I had, like, I should have screenshotted and sent it to you. Both of them are over 5 yards in the backfield.
Yeah. Yeah.
On a run play.
I mean, that, and like, again, this was a game, you were up 30. Why is Troy Everett not playing at center with Caden Green at guard and Rouse? Like, granted, that still has Matauer out there, but Everett has shown, while he's not the most talented guy, he will fight his butt off. And that changes everything at the center. Caden Green is 10 times more talented. 10 times more talented than Everett or Rame. So now, at least you've got 3 guys out there in Rouse, Caden Green, and Guyton that have the talent and the physical tools to push somebody off the ball. Right now, you have 2. You have 2 right now. And again, if Jacob Sexton is healthy, why don't you not find a way to get him on the field?
Yeah.
Because he has to have better physical tools than Matauer or Everett does. Like not just has to, he does. Okay. So again, I'm getting way too long on this rant. We have to keep moving. My last thing, bad cop, is if somehow, some way our defense keeps us in this game, we are in trouble because our special teams are just not any good. While our kicking's not atrocious when it comes to field goals, I mean, I would say that nobody in the stadium is going to be overly confident from 35 yards or farther that we're going to put it through the uprights. And if you need to flip the field with a punt, I mean, we know that that's about a, 45, 55 proposition. Now, granted, I think overall the punting's been okay this year. The one was at Cincinnati where he shanked like 3. The rest he's been okay, right? But still, the special teams, as far as our kicking goes, is not very good right now. It is just not good. And so these close games, it's going to be trouble. So it's my bad cop, man. This game should have been a get right game. And instead, all it did was highlight that the weaknesses that we have are legitimately our weaknesses. Yeah. And you're about to play by far the most talented team that you've played all year.
Texas is going to be the closest team to an SEC level defense that we're going to play all year.
Yes. 100%. 100%.
And
they are very good.
I'm going to give a glimmer of hope before we move on. The one thing that I didn't realize, every team they've played this year, they've basically played backup quarterbacks. Or teams with not a very good quarterback. If you look at Bama, like they played whatever his name is, but he's not any good.
No, I can't remember. Yeah.
But
they went through 2 quarterbacks in that game, didn't they?
I think so. But Bean, it's like I told somebody, I was like, Texas played a great game against Kansas. I'm not saying that. But I think it looks a lot different if his name slipped my mind.
Daniels.
Yeah, if he's out there, way different game because he's athletic and he can sling the ball.
Yep.
So
I agree.
But anyway, that's my.
We'll talk about that on.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that all on Wednesday.
Yeah,
as we dive into it. But I mean, again, am I mad that we won 50-20? No. Am I mad that we're 5-0? No. But I feel like part of us doing this podcast is not just to sit around here and go, "Yay, we won by 50." It's to find the flaws. Like, look. When you and I sit down to watch tape this week against 5-0 Texas, we're not just watching it to go, hey, they're 5-0. Yay, guys, way to go. Like, we're looking for the weaknesses. We're looking for the vulnerabilities. And if we're going to do that there, that's our job to do here. And so this team has them. And I just don't know that you can beat teams that are as talented as Texas is. And I'm sorry, but they are, or anyone else like that in a bowl game, if you are one-dimensional on offense.
Well, and the other thing, again, we'll talk about this a little bit, but like their running backs are better than we've seen all year too. I mean,
oh my gosh, yeah.
So anyway, let's not preview the pod now. So let's get on to
let's not. Hey, one more thing is before we get into this. So this is kind of a preview, I guess, to some degree, but I still thought we're 5 games into the season. Let's kind of look over that and who have been our big surprises on the season for us, right? So 1 to 2 guys that have just really since the start of the season till now that you're like, whoa, okay, that's different than I was anticipating on the year. So Jared, who are your guys?
I'm gonna go. Okay, well, my first one's gonna be a little cheap. Andrew Anthony, because I thought we talked about this in the preseason when he was at Michigan. He had I think he had like 2 really big plays, but he didn't do anything else. So you're like, is he gonna be that guy that's like makes a big play, like 2 or 3 big plays in the year, but only has like 400 yards receiving on the year because he doesn't do anything else? And the dude's been clutch.
Right.
He came even in the Iowa State game, he came back and made a great catch, which was a terrible throw by Dylan, actually. So I thought that I think he's looked really solid this season.
Yep.
And then probably my other one is you know what? I guess it's a little bit cheap. I want to say Peyton Bowen, but we all expected Peyton Bowen to be really good.
Yes, but man, I'm okay with you saying that because I expect him to play a lot and be good. He is a superstar now.
He's
like,
wow.
He's different, bro.
Yeah, here's look, man,
let's put it this way. Let's be honest. We thought PJ was going to be the guy. out of this class that would have the biggest impact on this team right now. We thought Peyton would play and be good, but we were like, PJ, by the end of the year, you can't. I don't know that. I mean, you can't keep Peyton off the field now. 2 weeks ago, you can't keep Peyton off the field. And he has 2 blocked punts. He hasn't, I mean, like, he is everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, and he's been really close. He's had like 3 fingertip, like just by the fingertips, he missed an interception. So, but I'm not even gonna say Peyton. And I would love to even say Danny, just because I think Danny has played at a level way higher than we expected him to this year. I
Agreed.
never would have thought that this week was his worst game, and even then, it's like he didn't have a terrible game. But I'm gonna go Key Lawrence though. Key Lawrence will be my other one. I'll pick
Nice.
an offense and defensive. So Key Lawrence has just been that guy. Again, this game, bad quarter, and then shirted up, right? But the dude's all over the field, man. Like, I mean, he has you can tell that he's playing way more instinctually. He's playing a lot more comfortable. And like I said, he's just flying to the ball. Again, like last really every week leading up. I mean, even this week he was, but like I said, Cincinnati and Tulsa and all, like he was just everywhere. It doesn't matter where it was. It was in run support, it was in pass breakups, and I mean the dude's just all over the place. So Key Lawrence has just gone to a level that last year it was like, again, you saw flashes, you saw his athletic ability, but you could just tell that he was not there as being a sound defender. And this year he is that, and he still has all of his athletic ability. So
Yeah, agreed. Number one for me, the guy that I like the most offensively right now is Jaden Gibson. But look, man, I can't deny the biggest surprise to me is Nick Anderson. Because I thought coming out of high school, Jaden Gibson was a freak. Like, just to remind all of us, we all were hype about Nick Anderson coming out of high school because of his brother. But his profile, he was a 3-star, okay? He was barely in the 240s ranking composite, okay? He was the 38th wide receiver off the board. Okay, that's composite. Now, if you go by 247, for example, who I think's a decent, measuring just their score by themselves, they had him as the 61st wide receiver in the nation coming in. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I felt like, hey, he's got good size. He's got good genes. Maybe he turns into something, but this really kind of just feels like an OU legacy offer and commitment, right? Like, does that make sense? And now, like, again, I'm saying it. How does he not get 90% of the snaps at wide receiver? Like, he should get 75% of the snaps at wide receiver. He has been unbelievable. Been so good. So he's one. My number two, while I know this guy was a high recruit, I know all the different things, but I'm telling you, man, in that first quarter, I looked over at Tal, he was watching the game with me, and I said, dude, that's a superstar right there. And it's Gentry Williams. Gentry Williams is not just good, he is becoming a superstar. He is in the run. He is destroying receivers trying to block him. He's destroying receivers tackling. He's making open field tackles. And I believe he has 2 or 3 interceptions already on the season. Like, the dude is everywhere. And not to mention, you want to talk about somebody that looks SEC ready? Him and Peyton Bowen. Those two dudes look like SEC DBs. They are long, they are thick, and they bring the wood. Those guys, those two are my big surprises on the season. And I think will have a huge impact on the game this coming week as well. So those are mine. So that's that.
can I
Go
I, I
into a
know
little. Oh, go ahead.
I know what your next segment is, because I'm obviously looking at the flow here. But I just want you to know, after you get done with yours, I want to chip in one for me.
Oh, okay. All right. We're gonna go general college football next. Just kind of move off the Sooners and look broadly. And I gotta start general college football with a little segment that we call every once in a while My Other Brother Daryl. If you don't know, it's an old sitcom where there's a guy named Larry, and he has a brother Daryl and another brother Daryl, and they're all just kind of country bumpkins. They do some weird stuff and say some weird things. Well, we had one of those moments this week in the Oregon State game. I don't know if you saw this, Jared, or not. Actually, we talked about it beforehand. I think you were looking it up as we were sitting here.
Yeah,
But
I've seen that now. My eyeballs have seen that.
so Oregon State had the lead and is attempting to milk the clock. They are attempting to slow down the pace and work the clock a little bit more. Apparently, DJ Uyunglele did not understand that they wanted to milk the clock. And so head coach Jonathan Smith is trying to get him to slow down and to stop moving so quickly through the offense and milk the clock, and decided to grab his own chest regions. I mean, he basically milked himself to display that they needed to slow the pace down. Like, you really don't have another way of communicating that. Like, the first thought that came to your mind was, I'm going to just grab myself and squeeze so that you know that we're trying to milk the clock. Like, are we serious right now? Because number one, men don't make milk.
Yeah, when I saw that, I couldn't do anything but think of the what is it, the Meet the Parents or whatever that movie is. Yeah. I have nipples, Greg. Could you milk me? Meet the Fockers, yeah, or whatever it is. No, it's not Meet the Fockers, it's Meet the Parents, because the Meet the Fockers is the or they Ben Stiller's family, and they're all weird. But yeah, he's like, give me I have nipples, Greg. Can you milk me? That's like all I could think about watching that. Like somebody needs to soundbite that over it or something.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, that was a whole weird, like, you're like, yeah, check that out. And I watched it and I was like, there's not another way of conveying. Yeah, like,
seriously, like, somebody told me about it and I was like, dude, it's gonna be like an AI thing. Like, it's totally, and then you hear the broadcast go, that was a very interesting play signal there.
Yeah, isn't it a weird time we live in when you're like, is that an AI deep fake? You know what I mean? Like, you actually have to like stop and think, like, is that real? You know?
Yes. Oh my gosh, it was amazing though. So good, so good. Loved it. So that was my other brother Daryl. But I think you have one as well.
Yeah. So did you see the post game press conference? This will lead us good into our next point, probably.
Oh, Lord, yes.
The post game press conference for Lincoln, and where Caleb, by the way, Caleb Williams looked like he didn't have any interest in being in that room. Not only that, he almost looked.
But here's the thing, man. Like, you and I know this. Even if you think your defense isn't the greatest, nobody wants to sit in there and hear a reporter who doesn't practice, who doesn't have any skin in the game, start going in front of everybody. Do you still have confidence? And like, what do you think Lincoln's going to say? Everybody's trying to read into that as Caleb Williams is like, I hate Grinch too, and I want him gone. I think that's way more like, bro, don't ask that question. Like, don't do that right now.
But let's also be honest. Like, at the same time, I don't think Caleb's not going to come out and be like, I hate Grinch and I don't want him here. But we've also, like, I think we can both say, if you're playing offense and you go out there and you go score a touchdown and then your defense just can't stop anybody, it's frustrating. Like, you did your job. Yeah. Like, there's a lot of, I mean, as much as football's a team sport and the brotherhood and all that, like, I get it. But there's times where you're like, I'm doing my job. Why aren't you doing your job? You know what I mean? Like, sure. Caleb goes up there and said, what did he throw, like 5 passing touchdowns and a run? Like, it was, dude, the dude's throwing up Madden stats and he wins by a touchdown. You know what I mean? So right. I'm just like, it's just one of those things of like, you know, let's just roll into it. Let's roll into the Colorado. We're talking general college football, Colorado USC. I said last week,
you did,
that it was going to be a weird score. I said that, that Colorado has those type of skill players that are going to give them fits. And even not only that, it was literally like, you could take that AI you have and put OU jerseys on there and you would not be able to tell a difference. Because not only did that, Colorado had a freshman receiver who had like 11 snaps in his career at Colorado.
He had no catches. He had no catches.
Yeah, but he'd only played 11 snaps. Like, he played in garbage time. And he put up almost 200 yards of receiving on USC. And USC had no answer. No answer whatsoever. For the life of me, I don't understand how Grinch has a job. But the same thing is to give Grinch a little bit of a break. How do you not step like it's the same thing we talked about with Lincoln when he was at OU? You have to at some point, if you look at Georgia, if you look at Bama, if you look at all the teams that have dominated college football, they have that moment where a team might come up and score a touchdown and then they just put their foot on their throat and crush them. Lincoln's
Yep.
teams have never done that. I
No.
can't think like it's just never happened.
Nope.
And I don't see that it's happening. And like I said, honestly, he ought to be glad. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I'll buy Deion stock right now. If he stays at Colorado, Colorado actually might be pretty good because I was like, if you think about him, if he goes in the transfer portal or he goes in the recruits and says, look, we got all the pieces. You've seen what Shadur Sanders can do, seen what Travis Hunter can do. You see, we have these guys. We have people with a skill position. I'm just missing some D line and some O line. And then we're
Yeah.
national contenders. It's like really honestly, if they had good offensive, not even just great, just serviceable, Colorado probably is a playoff team, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
Shadur
mean,
Sanders is actually really, really good. He's not a Caleb
yeah.
Williams, but he's
No.
really, really freaking good.
Yes, he's great. And yes, I mean, no, Lincoln doesn't know how to close the door. And that's the only reason I picked them to cover was I thought this was the one game where the fact that Deion was getting all the hype, which is what Lincoln loves. He loves the hype. He loves the hype train that he was going to pull a Dan Lanning and just go
Did you
all
see?
out from start to finish to run that score up, and he didn't.
Did
You
you see
know?
Deion's comments after the game? That was like, I don't think he meant it that way, honestly. But did you see him kind of? He was like, everybody knew in that stadium if we got the ball last, we were going to go
Oh,
score.
yeah, 100% I did. And
I
he
mean,
wasn't trying to.
I don't
He was
think he was
just meant
trying
the
to.
momentum was on their side.
Yeah, and he was even said like Shadur Sanders and those guys, like you said, those guys were playing well. And I don't think it was a shot, but it's like at the same time, it's like it's kind of a shot
Oh,
inadvertently.
it's a shot. It's a
Yeah,
shot. And here's the deal. Here's my real belief. The reason Grinch still has a job is this reason. I think Grinch allows Lincoln Riley to have zero physicality in practice. I think that's one of the things they do. That's why they can't tackle, because they are not allowed to tackle in a practice. And we know that from when he was here. If they had anybody that they even deemed as a superstar, they wore a blue jersey. You could not touch them in practice. Now, granted, you do that with your quarterback. You don't do that with your running backs. You don't do that with your wide receiver, but Lincoln did. And so now what are you supposed to do? The best athletes on the field, the ones that are the hardest to tackle, you're going to tell my guys they can't tackle. Like, I don't know that they tackled to the ground once the season started at OU when Lincoln was there. And I think Grinch says, that's fine. We'll find a way to get it done. Whereas I think one of the things that, even though his job was not done well either, I do think that there was friction between Mike and Lincoln, because Mike was saying, I need to be able to actually practice defense, not just schemes, but actually hit somebody. And we've talked about it before, strength and conditioning. So I think all those reasons is why he loves Grinch. And I think Grinch has the same mentality that Lincoln does. One of the reasons Lincoln can't put his foot on people's throats, he doesn't adjust. His game plan is the game plan, and they're going to keep doing the game plan. And there are very few adjustments from first half to second half in his offenses at all. And Grinch is the same way. This is the game plan. This is what we're going to do. Teams adjust, and then you can't close the door.
Real quick, but just because I want to just absolutely shame them to death now, just because I had the thought, because I was thinking of the whole Mike Leach coaching tree and like how there's actually a lot of coaches that have come out of that and been really powerful. Texas Tech, by the way, trash, completely trash organization, like just terrible. You will not pay him money that he's owed. Yeah. But hey, we're gonna honor him at our game, bro,
and put him in our ring of honor.
A ring of honor, but we don't want to write him a check.
But we fired him without cause.
Yeah.
Or with cause. We fired him with cause. Yeah. Because he was a terrible human being. But he should be in our ring of honor. Absolutely should be in the ring of honor. Like, biggest PR stunt ever for people who don't know that story or have forgotten that story.
You know the irony of it. And what's funny is I can't even remember what's Texas Tech's head coach. Oh, okay.
Montgomery.
Montgomery. Yeah.
Montgomery.
I actually like him all right. But like he did the whole everything runs through Lubbock, Big 12 runs through Lubbock and all that. And I'm like, the closest that's been to a fact is when Mike Leach was there. That's the
Yeah,
closest it's ever been.
that's correct.
So yeah, anyway, I just wanted to Mike Leach I actually loved Mike Leach. Weird, weird dude. Rest in peace. But just the
Yes.
total trash that Texas Tech tried to pull is beyond me. So anyway, but let's
Yeah,
keep going.
absolutely. I mean, the only other thing was just a great game between Notre Dame and Duke. I don't know if there's much to the worst thing there is if Duke's lost their quarterback, which it looks like they have for a while. Duke's in
Dude,
trouble. That he's a
that they
baller,
what
man.
he is he's great. What's funny is you look at him, he doesn't have like crazy stats even, but dude, he's just one of those guys that's got that grit to go in. But I really was like, I was frustrated. I was watching that game and they kept replaying the play where he got hurt, and I was like, guys, we see that his leg is bending a direction that it shouldn't bend. Let's just stop looking at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're like, well, we don't know, and I'm like, bro, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, but that was a tight game. I think Notre Dame has some issues that they got to figure out. Because honestly, like here's my take. I think, and I wanted to what's your thoughts on it real quick. Notre Dame looked like they just look like the better team as far as like they just look like a better team. I don't know that they looked better coached.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. But I also think Duke's coach is a very good coach. I mean, I think he's a really. I mean, so I don't want
Well,
people to hear me say yes to that in the sense that Freeman's a bad coach.
no, I don't mean that either. But I just mean on nearly every position on the field, Notre Dame is superior in every like in physical nature, athleticism at every position.
Yeah, yeah, I
And so
100%.
the fact that it was a close game just goes. It's not really a dig at Freeman. It's more of a a nod. Um, so again, I can't remember Duke's coach's name now. But
I
yeah,
have no
just
idea.
but it was a great game. There was a lot of good football this weekend, though. A lot of good football. Like I said, the Duke Notre Dame game. Georgia was crazy.
That was a crazy game. There was a lot. There was a lot. But we're running short on time. Let's hit one. I realized there was one thing I didn't put in the flow. We're giving this 2 minutes, even though it deserves so much more.
Okay.
The Cleveland Browns are 2-2, while the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 3-1.
Let's go Florida Rep, bro.
And our boy Baker, he balled. He balled the other day.
Dude, I'm telling you, this is a discussion we had a little bit on stream the other day. He wins locker rooms. Like you can't.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing is we were talking about like a lot of people at the Jets organization don't like
Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson.
Oh, they
a lot
do
of people,
not like
apparently
that,
a lot
dude.
of people don't like Russell Wilson. You know what I mean? Like there's some of those guys that just are not liked. It's like I would think you'd be hard pressed to go find somebody that doesn't like Baker that Baker's played with.
Yeah.
I mean,
Odell's it, and even Odell was cheering for Baker after they kind of parted ways.
Yeah.
And I honestly now almost wonder if Odell didn't just use Baker as the scapegoat to get out of Cleveland.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, even Baker said this week that this is the first coaching staff that's let him play his ability.
Yeah.
Or the second, because he said McVay did too at the Rams.
Well, dude, he only had 7 incompletions. He did have a pick. It was a bad pick, but he also had 3 touchdowns on the day as well. I mean, just guys balling, man. I'm so excited for him.
And he's just got that
cool thing to see.
He's just got that grit. He's got that old Baker grit of just he's bring your lunch pail toward a player. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So anyway,
it's been fun. Let's very quickly recap our picks of the week. We came into the week. I was standing atop at 5-1-1. Troy was in second. Jared was at rock bottom at 2-4-1. After this week, why did I put faith in Lincoln Riley at all? I don't know. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's a big question. It's a conundrum.
Sorry to everyone that I did that. It's pathetic. I went 1-5, making me now 6-6-1 on the season. Jared goes 4-2 to make himself 6-6-1 on the season. We have a tie at the top of the leaderboard. Well done, little brother. Well done. I have to give you just
I had to
a
give you.
round of
I'm
applause.
giving. You know what it was? I let you build up that false hope in that first week, and then I'm just
Yes.
gonna slowly just rip it out of your hands. Just
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Sure.
but felt good.
Sure.
Felt good. So
I still have the best week on the season, but that's but even so,
yeah,
it's congratulations. So
yeah. So
not bad.
I'm
I also have the worst week in the
yeah,
season. So
yeah, yeah. So is I guess, does that mean Lincoln Riley's coming to your Thanksgiving dinner, or
yeah, if he is, don't bring brisket. So but
well,
anyways.
he'll probably have to break into your house or something anyway.
Oh wow, well played, sir. Well played. Well
But
played.
yeah, no, it's been fun. It's been fun. I'm like I said, this is the like, as far as just overall college football, just taking OU out of it, this is, like I said, this has been one of the better college
Yeah.
football seasons I can remember in a while.
It's been very entertaining. There is no doubt. It's been a lot of fun. Now, Wednesday, Thursday, depending on what day we get our schedules all in, we will do a preview of OU Texas this week. So be looking for that. It is time. It is time. And I am repping OU every day this week. I don't care if I got to wear a t-shirt to the office. It is OU every day because it is that week. And folks, don't forget to make fun of Steve Sarkisian on the Twitters, right? Give us your best Sark, and then just fill in the blank, whatever it was, on the day. So do that. Like I saw one the other day that Sark calls before texting was one the other day. Just weird things like that all through the week that have been really, really funny. So find those, fill them out, get it going, because it's Hate Texas Week. It is Beat Texas Week. And we're going to talk all about it later on this week. We are, what? Yep.
I'm just gonna say, we're finally back. Like it's kind of the weird thing. Last year in the Big 12, and we're back to the winner of this game could choose who's the Big 12 in the Big 12 title game, who's going to a playoff, something like, you know what I mean? Like a lot on the line, right, for where these teams are right now.
And by the way, I would say this game really is very important for who gets there. And I know a lot of people think, well, even if we lose this game, we're playing Texas again. The tiebreaker this year is weird. It is really, really weird. And if that's the case, OU needs to win this game. That's all I can say. They just need to win this game. So, anyways, we're having a great time. We hope you guys are too. Thanks for joining us. I'm Daryl. That's Jared. And we will talk to you guys later.
Bye, Baker.